Let's Christian the Havercard Man here, back at you with another deck profile today. If you couldn't tell by the title, today we are going to be taking another look at scraps. So before we get into this deck profile today, I just want to let you guys know that the Stat Recap Episode 3 for the Scrapping Up the Rank series is now live if you want to go check that out. That'll be a link in the card right up here for you to go see, so you guys can stay updated with the series of my scrapping up the ranks of the Omega ladder. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the deck profile, shall we? So to start off today, we are playing triple copies of Scrap Raptor. Let me get that in a good position for you here. Playing triple copies of Scrap Raptor. This is like your best starter for the deck. Like, there really is no better way to open up than with a Scrap Raptor and then, extenders. But in the event that Raptor isn't the only, or isn't the way that we open up, we have backup plans such as 3 Scrap Recycler, which will also get us into a 1-card combo with this deck. That's why I love scraps. They have just 1-card combos that just do a ton. And once again, it's a toolbox deck, so we're intended to be able to deal with whatever we are going up against. We have a whole assortment of tools, and if we don't need those, we don't need those. Sometimes all you need is just a roll of duct tape. So, alright, 2 copies of Scrap Golems. What we got up next for our extenders, I've honestly been considering bumping this guy up to 3 just because he is so clutch, and it is actually possible to get 3 of them out, even in a single turn. So I've been debating it, but I'm like, well, you know, at that point, I'd probably just throw in Pot of Avarice instead. But next up is 2 Scrap Orthros, like the second best extender in this deck. He's just so good at being able to recycle resources. He helps give you follow-up plays by adding back your non-tuners to hand for the next turn. So you can add back a Scrap Chimera or something. Actually, I think it adds back any Scrap monster. So you can even add back a Scrap Raptor for the next turn if you wanted to. Scrap Orthros, just such a clutch card, and I absolutely love him. And also searchable off of Scrapyard, which is super cool. 2 Scrap Chimeras. What we got next? I love the premium gold on this guy. Also really clutch for this deck, just being able to summon a tuner from the Scrap Tuner from the graveyard. Basically, Scrap Chimera, if you already have a monster in graveyard, is instant Scrap Wyvern access, which is perfect. We have 2 Scrap 1-of next. That is a Scrap Mind Reader, which pairs pretty well with the Scrap Recycler, in my honest opinion. Scrap Mind Reader is just he comes up in more niche situations. I'm considering cutting him, or at least siding him for now. But I'm going to keep him in for now. I'm going to do more testing with him, see how he does, because so far he hasn't really done too bad. But the best one of here is actually a Scrap Searcher, and this guy comes in so clutch. If you guys want to see a combo tutorial, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and comment down below to let me know you want to see a combo tutorial for this deck. Because Scrap Searcher has a lot of fun combos, and I absolutely love abusing this guy because he is not once per turn on anything, which makes him absolutely hilarious. And then next up here, these are our extenders and kind of honorary scrap cards, is triple copies of Chronograph Sorcerer. And the reason I say he's like an honorary scrap card is because he has destruction-based effects. So in the Pendulum Zone, you know that you can special summon a Time Gazer from deck or hand. But his monster effect is while he's in the hand and one of your monsters is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon him and one other, if you want to, another monster from your hand as well. So you can choose to just special summon him if you want, but if you have another monster in hand that you can summon it with him. And so it's just bonus bodies. Chronograph synergizes so well with this deck, it's not even funny. And of course, to pair with them, we do have the one-time Gazer Magician to special summon out from deck in the event that we open up a single scrap monster and a Chronograph. And our opponent negates our scrap monster, we can still use Chronograph to get the Time Gazer out, and then go off their place from there. So just absolutely wonderful there. 1 Crystron Rosenix, this is what helps us have the Recycler be a 1-card combo. Basically, just send this to graveyard, banish it for the token, and then go off a scrap combo with the Wyvern. So just awesome there. Absolutely love it. Next up here is probably one of my favorite cards of the deck. That is triple copies of Jizukiru, the Star Destroying Kaiju. I was previously playing this before because I was using the Machina build, so I could banish this with Ruin Force from the graveyard, and just because it was a high-level Kaiju. Now, it's just because it's a high-attack Kaiju, which actually is pretty relevant, especially because we have 2 copies of Alpha the Master of Beast next. So, the nice thing is if you open up with the Jizukiru Alpha combo, you can Kaiju one of their monsters, Alpha away the other one, and then special summon the Alpha back to field. Or, if you want to, you can special summon the Alpha, bounce the Jizukiro back to hand, and then summon the Alpha again if they still have another monster on field that you don't care about. But then you can actually get a Kaiju back for next turn. Alpha on his own, too, can just out problem monsters, but it's much easier to stop than a Jizukiro, since Jizukiro attributes for cost, and Alpha has to activate to bounce. So that is kind of something to consider, is that Alpha can be negated. That's why I only play 2 in the main. So that's it for our main deck monsters. We'll go ahead and go into the spells really quick. Next up here, we're going to have 3 Scrapyard. This is another 3 copies of Scrap Raptor. Also can search Scrap Orthros, can search Scrap Mind Reader. It can just search any Scrap Tuner, which is super awesome. Of course, another honorary Scrap card. 3 copies of Fossil Dig to search our Scrap Raptor. That is 9 copies of Scrap Raptor in this deck. Plus the 3 copies of Scrap Recycler gives us 12 1-card starters. And of course, there are other ways to get plays started in this deck. These are just all of the 1-card combos, which is super good. Another one that in certain situations can act as a starter / extender. Like, you have to pair it with another card for it to be a starter. But it's really good at least being an extender and a way to play through hand traps. And even like just ignore certain hand traps, is 3 copies of Scrap Storm. This card is so underrated for scraps. Because it's like, you're going to be blowing your stuff up anyways, so why not thin out your deck a little bit by sending a Scrap Monster from deck to graveyard, which usually we're going to be sending Scrap Searcher with this guy. Drawing a bonus card so it replaces itself, and then destroying your monster. Next up here, 2 Scrap Factory. Just really a win more card, but it's such a good one that it warrants playing it in this deck. Especially because, once again, it can help you play around a lot of different things. Like, Scrap Factory, just nuts. I love this card. Next up, 2 Dark Ruler No More. Just got to be able to break boards. We prefer the Kaiju route if we can, because we are going second, so obviously we're going to want to just OTK and close that game as soon as possible. But sometimes that's not always the way to go about it. Sometimes we just have to negate what's on field and just clear their board and establish our own, which we can still very much do with this deck, and I am okay with having the 2 copies of Dark Ruler in the main. Next up, 2 Cosmic Cyclone. Just never know when you're going to see back row that's going to become a problem. Like, Floodgates are basically what these are intended for. Stuff like Mystic Mine, TC Boost, Summon Limit. You want to be able to have some sort of back row removal to be able to play through that kind of stuff. Because most of the times you're going to face that is in like a stall strategy. So you're going to want to have this anyways. And you're not as worried about drawing into it in the long game if you're going to be in that kind of grind match. So... and then lastly here, a couple of 1-ups. We have 1 Monster Reborn, and then Monster Reborn 2.0 with World Legacy Succession. Just bonus extenders. Helps us play through stuff. You know, like, even the World Legacy Succession can actually help us play through Nibiru, because we do have a way to clear the token off a field to make a linked monster. And then we can just World Legacy Succession to keep going off their combos. So, I might bump it up to 2. I don't know. It's just hard because it is a hard once per turn, so... It is what it is. The bonus extenders are nice. You don't necessarily need them. They help. Alright, so on to the extra deck now, guys. Alright, so in the extra deck, we're going to start off, like I mentioned, we have 1 copy of Link Spider. Mostly to get Nibiru token off the field. You can also use it for Krishron Rosenix token if you use it late combo to get another effect monster with Link Spider instead of a normal monster token. So, Link Spider just helps in a ton of cases, so... of course, 2 Scrap Wyvern. Can't go without this guy. I don't know if I'd consider bumping him up to 3. 2 seems to be just fine, so we usually close out the game pretty quick. Alright, next up here, 1 copy of IP Masquerena. We're usually just link summoning with her on our turn. We don't worry about using her effect on the opponent's turn. Because there's so many situations where you'll get hit with a Dark Ruler, a Kaiju, a Forbidden Droplets, and then IP just becomes irrelevant. And like most of the times we don't really have effects that we need to go off on our opponent's turn anyway. They're usually lingering effects or just setting up like an Apollousa with negates. So like there's really no reason to use the IP on your opponent's turn in this specific build. Next up here is 1 Topologic Trisbana. This card is just absolutely nuts. 1 Apollousa, Bow of the Goddess, absolutely love her. You never know when you're going to be forced to go first. And even going second, if you like Dark Ruler No More, or the best you could do is just clear their field and then end on an Apollousa, like that's fine. Apollousa can stop so many decks right now. It really hurts like Phantom Knights, it can hurt sometimes like Virtual World. Does pretty good against like Invoked. And there's a lot of decks where Apollousa becomes like really relevant. So I really love that. This next card is a flex pick, and I'm actually going to be swapping it out here within the next few days when cards show up. My next one is a Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. When it shows up, this is actually going to turn into a relinquished anima. and that is purely because of Scrap Searcher and in some cases Scrap Mind Reader, because Relinquished Anima just helps like clear stuff off the field, and I have more level 1s in the deck now that Anima's actually a viable card. And the Avramax has just kind of underperformed for me. I used to really like doing the whole IP into Avramax combo because he just becomes a really hard to out monster, but I've noticed a lot of decks don't have as much trouble outing that anymore, so it's not like the best option anymore. Next up, one Borrelsword Dragon. This guy has started winning me so many games lately, and he comes in so clutch. I absolutely love him. Just the OTK machine will close out any game super quick. Saryuja Skuldred, just like the ultimate combo extra deck monster. He does so much for combo. Next up is Nightmare Griffin, another card that just absolutely wins me games because people just don't read him. They don't realize that, you know, monsters that are not, or special summon monsters that are not linked cannot activate their effects. Next up here, Unchained Abomination just synergizes really well with the deck. You're popping all of your own stuff all the time. You can use them to pop either more of your own stuff, which probably not going to be the best idea in most cases, but you can also use it to start popping your opponent's stuff, which is really good. Also another good grindy match card, so Abomination's just nuts. Last up here for the Link monsters is one Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. She comes in so freaking clutch, man. I cannot tell you how many times people were not ready. They would set up a towers that like I just couldn't do anything else with other than Underworld Goddess. Now for the synchros here, we have one Scrap Dragon. Yes, that is an ulti. Scrap Dragon can come up to help clear some fields. Scrap Twin Dragon actually comes up quite a bit. This last one is also a flex pick and also another card that I'm going to be swapping out, and that is a Virtual World Shen Shen. This is going to turn into a Borreload Savage. It was just for a while I didn't want to buy him because he was too expensive, but I just kind of finally pulled the trigger. Should be here in the next couple of days, but Shen Shen is really underperformed. I'd much rather just have the Borreload Savage negate in here, I honestly think. That's all I got for the extra deck. Let's go ahead and move on to the side and then send you all on your way. Alright, so for the side deck here, this is pretty simple. One Alpha Master Beast just to finish the playset. A lot of these cards are just to finish the playsets of the main deck of like just finding out whatever situations we need. Helps out a lot. So next up here is one Dark Ruler No More to finish off that playset. I mean, you just never know when that's going to be crucial. If you're facing like a friggin' 3 to 5 negate board, it's much harder to play through that with just kaijus. So at that point, you gotta need Dark Rulers. One Cosmic Cyclone for if we get the back row matchup. Once again, if we face more Floodgates, Cosmic comes in clutch. Next up here, we have one Raigeki and one Harpy's Feather Duster, just really clutch cards. Once again, you just want to know the situation you're dealing with first before you side these in. Next up, triple Twin Twisters, just back row. We don't have many like in-house ways to deal with back row. A ton of ways to deal with monsters, so if we need to side some of those out for a back row matchup, we have these options here to help keep us alive. And for more monster problem decks, we have triple copies of Mystic Mine. This is just, you never know when you're going to be able to slap down a Mystic Mine after getting through some of these negates and just be able to stall until you get the combo parts you need. It doesn't really negatively impact our deck, but it's not worthwhile playing in the main deck because you don't want your opponent to know you're running Mine. Same thing goes with Triple Tactics Talents. I've come across a lot more decks lately that just are not running hand traps, or at least not running enough of them that are monsters for me to have to worry about it. This is mostly a going first card if we know that our opponent's playing hand traps and we know that we're going first. Or if we're going second against a really combo heavy deck, Triple Tactics can come in clutch. I just had it like yesterday. And the last card for our side deck here is one copy of Red Rebirth, the only trap we play throughout the entire deck. And it's just, once again, because of back row matchups. Basically, if you couldn't tell, I hate Eldritch. Like, that's really all that is. I hate Eldritch. And any sort of floodgate cards like Summer Limit and stuff like that. So Red Reboot can just come in clutch. Well, that's all I got for you guys today for today's deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like my take on this deck. This is probably like the third or fourth iteration I've done now. I don't think for this channel yet. But I've done so many variations of this deck, and so far I think this one's actually become the best. It's just the more purish variant of Scraps. I'm hoping we get a little more support in the future to make it a little bit more viable, because something like Scrap Recycler could be a little bit more useful than having to worry about Garnets, but it is what it is. So either way, I love playing this deck, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next part of the Scrapping Up the Ranks series. If you feel like checking that out, once again, that'll be in the card linked up here. Not right now, but it'll be in the card, so you can go out there and find the playlist And then, of course, if you want to see previous iterations of this deck, that'll be in our deck profiles playlist as well. So be sure to check all that stuff out. If you guys enjoyed the video, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll catch you guys all next time. Remember, good fun. Have luck.